So one of the things that we've had, the current rate structure has 3 tiers. The first 0 to 5 tier is included in the fixed charge. The proposed that is included in the 218 was a single tier from 0 to infinity, essentially. And what Mr. Baker has provided you guys is, again, a 3 tier. So the 3 tier, going from a 3 tier to another 3 tier is going to give you the best overall percentage share across everybody, because you're going from the same system to the same system. And going from a 3 tier to a 1 tier creates the kind of the bubble in the line where I think it's 5 to 12 units. Those people are getting more of an increase, and then as you get to both ends of the line, it's a much bigger decrease, as Director Baker pointed out. The first year when you're changing from any system to another system is going to be the hardest year. Going forward, it's going to be on a single tier will be the same increase for everybody. It's just how you got there in the first place, which is going to be the difficult part. He is correct. If we go to a higher base rate, it will guarantee, well, reasonably guarantee a minimum amount the district will collect, and can help secure the financial future of the district. It does increase the costs across the board, and as I said, shares it kind of more evenly, like he had mentioned. I just wanted to make sure we're all aware of that.
First off, I do want to say thank you again to Director Baker for working on this. I did meet with him quite a bit, and we did discuss this proposal. We spent a lot of time going over back and forth, not in our meeting, but just historically about the 3 tiers versus the single tier system. I know we heard a lot of feedback originally that we're supposed to have a single tier system. Everyone should just pay the same flat unit charge. And unfortunately, that's kind of the system that ended up being proposed by a consultant and seeing those increases. There was one other method that was discussed a little bit, which was a introductory method, which would phase in. That would reduce revenues, but that would help lower some of the percentage-wise increases. Right, okay.
So it would be, one of the things that was proposed, and I mentioned at the beginning of this, is that the board could elect to lower the percentage increase. So the overall percentage increase. So originally the 218 was calling for a 4.5% increase to the net revenue, or to the gross revenue, sorry. So what had been discussed a little bit at the meetings that Director Baker and Director Collins and I had was to use the first year as a 0 increase. So switching to the new format, but having essentially a 0 increase. Then the next year would be at 4.5 or 5% and move forward from there. You still have the problem that you're going from a 3 tier to a single tier, so you're still going to have that group of people using 5 to 12 units that are going to be paying more than they normally would. The people at the very low end would still be paying a little bit less. The people at the very top would be paying a little bit less.
Yes, and that was one of the issues with that listen that was discussed. The other concerns I've had is that, because I really do like what Director Baker has actually developed, and I want you to know that. I think I said that also during our meetings, honestly. The thing is that with our current tier system that we have right now, we're going to be heading into the summer months. And so under that format, people don't like the rates as they are now. And if we do abandon what's been proposed by a consultant today, those people are going to be paying the higher rates, into the summer. So people are going to start trying to refill their pools around May, all that kind of stuff. They're going to get hit. So this is where I kind of want to get feedback, at least from the board, on what direction. Because if we did move directly forward with Director Baker's proposal, we're looking at 40. How many days are we looking at? Or when would that even be implemented?
So,
Can't remember.
assuming that we started another 218.
Right.
So, at this meeting, the board would have to direct us to bring it back in April for discussion. In April, we could bring it back, and after whatever meeting it's discussed at, and the board approves to move forward with the 218 process, it's a minimum of 45 days from that day to the date that the board can approve a rate. So if it's approved in April, then you're looking at least June. If, you have to count the days, but from the day it's published to the day that the board discusses it, it would have to be 45 days. So it may push it out to July before it could be discussed. And then it would be the month after that before it's implemented. So on the short term, it could be implemented in July. On the long term, it would be implemented anytime after July, in the middle of a month. That's assuming that it passes.
That is the other question too, is that if we do abandon 218 and we go, I do like your proposal, Director Baker, but we do recognize the fact that will there be, enough community support to move that forward, or will it, die in the 218? Because I don't want us to keep.
Well, that's why, proposing we kind of have a study session with the board and the public and see what the feedback is. I mean, if everybody hates it, there's a lot of opposition, then abandon it, and then I guess we're stuck with the consultant one.
Well,
That's
actually,
what we approved.
if I'm not mistaken, and I don't even jump in, but if we abandon it, we can't go back to consultant proposal at that point?
So the board, this is not recommended, but the board could continue this again and have a study session to discuss other options. In order to start another 218, you would have to abandon this 218. So you would have to vote to end this 218 to vote to start another 218.
Don't we have the option of approving this and then amending it?
So you have the option of approving this one, starting this one, and looking at the other options moving forward. And you could start another 218 at any time after this one's approved. There's nothing prohibiting that. So you could do that. We could theoretically approve this tonight. It would go into effect at a date determined by the board. And anytime after this is approved, the board could have further discussions on different rates. We could have workshops, we could have whatever the board desires, really, and move forward with a different rate, if that's the desire of the board.
And we can amend it after it's passed, as long as we don't increase it. We have to decrease it or
So you
say, right?
That is correct. You can decrease it. You cannot increase it. If you decrease it for a subsequent year, you can't get that money back. You can't make up the difference.
So when you say increase or decreasing, are you talking about the gross revenue or any particular rate? Like
So-
flat rate or the unit rate or what?
So I'm referring to the gross revenue, but you could theoretically lower either the fixed rate or the volumetric rate independently, but you get into a very slippery slope because now you're changing what the increase is. So let's say we lowered the fixed charge by $1 this year, then you would have to carry that forward. You couldn't make up that loss. So like this year, or the first one was $32.30, the second one was $33.92. So essentially $32.30, you could drop $1 off, it'd be $31.30, and then you would have to carry that $1 loss going forward. So the next one would be $32.92 instead of $33.92. It would base on the percentage of the increase, but you're increasing it by the percentage of what you had. So you can't, like if you increase your gross this year by 4% instead of 4.5%, you don't get to make up that 0.5%. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but.
Okay, so you can't, if the flat rate is $32.30, you can raise that and then lower the unit rate to compensate.
No.
No, okay.
So you could lower both of them, or you could keep both of them, or you can lower one or the other, but you can't raise one and lower the other.
So we could keep the 3230, and then the unit rate could be dropped from 575 down to 550 unit cents. That would be.
You could.
Yes, I read that one from the consultant, and I tried to explain it to you. Okay, he drops it, like the base rate right now is $53.08, right? Okay, so he dropped it to $32, but you're not getting 5 units with this $32. You're only getting about 2 units on that base rate.
Well, so at 3230, you're getting 0 units.
Yeah,
So the base rate doesn't include any units.
yeah,
So the current charges include 5 units of water for 5309. So going from that to what we were proposing, you would be paying $5.75 for 5 units on top of the 3230, which gets you basically
For 5 units.
it takes you to $61.05.
yeah, so it goes from $53 up to,
So it's a $7.96 increase
right.
for the proposed rate over the existing rate for
Right.
somebody using 5 units.
right. Well,
So for people using 0 or 1 units, which is what the board was trying to help, those people are seeing a decrease.
well, the way that 218 went, the opposition ballots were never cured by a neutral person. And so I have some doubts on the way which ones counted, which ones didn't count, and so on. So I would like to suggest throw this current proposed increase out, keep the one we're on right now, and start another 218. That's the easiest way to do it.
Well, it's not the easiest way to do it, but that is a way to do it, yes.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, I just like to kind of kiss everything, kind of keep it simple, but, I mean, that consultant, that thing is a nightmare. You go down there and look, you know, there's some huge increases for certain people.
Yeah,
And,
it's not as bad as it was when we had our last rate increase, but it's still an increase nonetheless. And it does hurt the 5 to 12 unit more, just by the nature of how the charges work.
well, like I said, in my opinion, let's just keep it the current rate and try to work this out. And I don't think we have to pay a consultant for a 218, do we?
So we pay the consultant to provide the data and the backup and make sure that what we're proposing is compliant with state law.
Well, can we just do our own and have him look at it?
So we can do that, but he'll probably charge us the same amount because he'll have to go back through everything that we provided to make sure that it does meet everything that it needs to meet.
I don't care that, like I said, that the last rate increase, we went from being into the red, we're very into the black right now. And, I just can't see paying a consultant because he brought all kinds of false information here. I caught him 2 different times, you know, before I was even on the board. So, I mean, maybe.
Yeah, that's your opinion. So,
That's the truth.
yeah, that is true, it is your opinion.
Yeah. No, it's true that I caught him in 2 different,
Okay, well, I don't want to argue about it, that's not
Yeah.
what I did.
all right.
So,
But anyway, that's what I'd like to do. I don't know, you know, about, I say just leave the rates where they are right now and let's start all over because this 218 and, that the last time that was done, it was a mess. And, you know, it was
the last
huge.
time, this time, or the last time
No, yeah,
before?
no, this 218 right here. The one that is being proposed that the consultant road up.
How is it a mess?
Just like Director Baker said, there's some huge rate increases. Goes on up to, some people are gonna be increased 17, 15, 16, 17%. That's a big increase.
And some people are seeing a reduction of homes 20 and 30%. So it just depends on where you fall on that. I understand your point, and it is a valid point.
Yeah.
Any other board comment?
Just that, the kind of the purpose of redoing all this and simplifying it so that people can understand, so they could understand their bill and not have it baked into that flat rate. I think that's a helpful concept. The other thing too is that we were trying to provide some assistance to those that are on the, use less water, which tend to be, smaller families and whatnot. It's unfortunately that the middle does get such a big hit on this is, if we were to, because I do like the flat rate, I do like the unit rate, the simplification of it. This $5.75 is what's needed to stay current on all of our bills. If we were to drop that, you did propose that we did like a 0%.
Actually, here's the one that I worked on.
Oh, this is the other one, okay, yeah.
So you're 40 flat and the 280 for the first 12.
Oh, for the first 12 units, I see. And then it goes up. So then these up here are going much, much higher. Okay. Yeah,
So
that's
most people are
helpful.
getting a decrease, but not as much.
Not a huge
Right, so
decrease,
the
yeah.
people that use 0 are not getting a 39, they're getting almost a 9.
Right.
But you still gotta pay for the infrastructure and, I think that just brings more guaranteed income into the district.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to keep everything the same, then, I don't think people are being helped by that either, so that's, I don't know, the 218 process is, I think what happens is that there is not enough information, correct information out there in the public. And so the public isn't, because not all the public is here at the meeting, so they don't hear everything. And so we are trying to figure this out in a, something that works for the C.S.D. infrastructure and also for the people. So we're not trying to ramrod this.
Any board comment?
I do want to say one other thing that I did touch on with Director Baker. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of talk about how much money the water department has on hand, and those reserves are still not enough to do most of our capital projects, even just one of them. Like the arsenic treatment is still double what we even have on cash on hand, So it's like, you don't have enough money to do a lot of the things, so it's, I don't want to stay with our current rate structure that we have right now. I'd like to provide some form of rate relief to a good chunk of people as we head into the summer months, especially for those who, because people are going to be they're going to have pools. We have no word right now if our town pool is even going to be open. So people are going to have to go get pools, they're going to have to go fill it up. It's going to take a lot of water, and I don't want those people getting hit with an extra bill because we have the current rate structure. So that's kind of what I'm thinking at this point. I want to move forward, but I'm willing to look at at the 218 with Director Baker's proposed though. You know, if we do something with this and then start moving forward with Director Baker's 218, that gives us the flexibility to figure out which one will be the best, which one the community also likes. That would give us the most amount of flexibility though. But I'm going to defer to my colleagues because I want to hear everyone's opinions.
I've stated mine, which is I think we ought to go forward with the rate increase and then at the next meeting, discuss reducing the rates with all the information that Director Baker has provided. Because I'm for reducing the rates.
Yeah, I mean, what you have, you know, provided here, did you talk to Kelly about implementing this system? Is this doable in their software and whatnot?
So we currently have a 3-tier system, so what Mr. Baker's presented would work with our system now, as would a 1-tier system.
But our 3-tier system has the rates in the flat rate, right?
Right. The system's set up to be able to handle multiple variations, so
Okay.
we wouldn't be presenting something if we couldn't actually implement.
Are you ready for public comment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Director Baker might have.
Director Baker, do you have something else that you want
Oh.
to say?
No, I think I pretty much said it, but I
Okay.
think my preference would be that, we get a study session set up maybe within the next week or 2 weeks, and then come back in April after we get public comment, and then see where we are. If we want to consider what I propose or some modification of it, or move forward with the one consultant.
Okay, very good. Time for public comment. Please approach the lectern and sign in. Good evening, directors.
National Censor, community member. To Director Gregory's point, the information coming to the public is not sufficient to really give anyone an idea about considering this. It really isn't until tonight that the bulk of the ratepayers are going to see a 17% increase. As Kelly produces the number of 4.5%, well, if you're just Joe Public and all you hear is this number of 4.5%, it doesn't seem like you're really going to take too much in the shorts. When you hear 17%, and that's the bulk of the people, and these are all households with people who are working, trying to maintain their households, that are struggling every day to make ends meet, they're going to suffer the biggest increase. Well, as again, Director Baker pointed out, the highest users are going to see a decrease in their rates. That makes no sense. That's the opposite of what should be happening. The people using the most water should be paying the most. The people in the middle should get at least a reasonable rate. The people who are using the least should get the greatest relief. That's not how it's set up. To Director Calvin's point about this capital reserves, you guys can charge $500 a month. You have 900 and some ratepayers. $500 a month. Over 10 years, you're still not going to get this huge chunk of money for capital projects. It's just not realistic to assume that the small community we have with 900 plus ratepayers can build this huge nest egg, these giant capital projects. It's not realistic. And no matter what rates you come up with, whether it's a 4.5% gross revenue increase, it's not going to build the coffers in some meaningful, quick way. We still have to rely on grants. That's the bulk of where we're going to get money for this capital projects. To the President's point, you do not have to raise the rates as based on what was presented. You can approve a lower rate today. You don't have to approve them and then go back later and reduce them. It can't be higher than what was proposed, but you can approve a lower rate, both in the flat rate and in the tiered water. I implore you to consider this very carefully because it affects everyone that's paying for water. Thank you.
Have any other public comments? Please approach the lectern and sign in.
It's really hard for me to hear back here, and that may be why I missed the answers earlier.
Sorry, Mr. Green.
Using your rate structure that you've been studying, at the end of 5 years, what would a person using 5 units of water pay?
After 5 years?
At the end of the 218 process, after the last increase, what would?
I haven't calculated that out. That's why I said we need to have a study session to kind of review all that. I just was comparing basically on a 1 year.
See, it's hard for people to follow because we don't have the information in front of
Well,
us.
that's why I said we need to have a study session, so we can get this information.
And then if I may, I have a question for Renee. How much do you pay in water?
Oh, thousands upon thousands of dollars.
To this district?
Oh, no, I'm in my
Director
own.
Slam, can we have public comment and then answer questions afterwards, please?
Okay. Sorry, any more public comment? We'll ask the questions afterward.
Do you have a water main going past your property?
Is that relevant to the
It is, if
intelligence
you have
of what I'm
water-
giving
if
to
you have-
this board?
We'll talk about it later.
It's your personal information, I don't know. Any other public comment? Please approach the lectern. If not, board, it's your pleasure.
There is one other thing that we didn't bring up that was talked about a bit in our discussions between me, Kelly, and Director Baker, is also doing some.
I'm sorry, it's hard to hear you.
No, I was having a hard time hearing because of. I can hear you.
Me too, I have since I got here.
So
It's hard to
please,
hear back.
please, if you have something to say, approach the lectern and speak.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So, also in our conversations with Mr. Dodds and Director Baker, we did also talk about using a benefit assessment mixed into this as well, which would actually also help possibly pay for capital projects and also help lower some additional rates a little bit further. But that would have to be studied a lot further. But that is something that we could also use to help reduce some of the burden off of our existing ratepayers, because then we can look at putting on our GSA costs onto that possibly, or some other capital projects that may involve like Gallo and whoever. So there are some opportunities out there, but that would have to be discussed in a study session further. I don't know if you want to talk about that, Mr. Dodds, or if you just want to.
So in general, what we've discussed, we've discussed several different things, but in the future, if a rate is approved, is not approved, as we go forward in life in general, there will be opportunities to either pursue a benefit assessment, which would be a property tax, or a different rate structure. Any of those things, and up into including grants, if we were successful in getting ulterior funding sources, then the board could elect to lower the rate at whatever time that we receive that. There is money built into the rate structure in order to support capital, but the amount that it's supporting is for capital 20 years from now, 30 years from now. So it's building slowly, because as Mr. Sangster pointed out, you can collect $500 a month from everybody here and still not have enough to pay for some of these capital projects that are going to have to get done. We are very fortunate at this point to be the recipient of a lot of different grants that have paid for most of the large projects that we've done. However, that will not always be the case. Eventually, this district will have to be able to fund some of these projects on their own. And the longer we go in, the shorter the time frame is to get some of these things done. So while 20 years seems like a long time, this district's been around for 24 years and hasn't gotten a whole lot done up until like the last 4 or 5 years. So 20 years will be here before we know it. If we don't plan for it now and we don't start building funds now, a little bit at a time, we won't have funds in the future for any sort of emergencies or long-term replacements that we know are coming. But back to the point, we can adjust, or the board rather, can adjust the rates down. Assuming we had passed, let's say, a 5% increase this year, and next year we get a bunch of grants that are paying for projects that we were planning on, then the board could elect to lower the rates because now we're no longer needing that funding in the future. So that is a possibility.
I honestly, I would probably, and we can have discussions about that as much as we want, but I would support a 0%. It's for the remainder of the fiscal year as moving forward with the rate structure as kind of discussed with the 4.5%, and then moving forward with Director Baker's 218 or the study session. Then we have both options available, and the committee can then, figure out which one they like the most. Because quite frankly, we've discussed this. We've had this on the agenda several times, and unfortunately, a lot of people have not shown up to these meetings. And I want to make sure we have plenty of feedback, especially to staff, so we can then, move forward with the best thing that the community wants. So
is that a motion or?
No.
I hear no out of one side, but you don't speak for me, Director Davis. So I'm going to throw that out as a proposal, but I want to hear what my colleagues think before I make the actual motion.
Well, as I've said, I'm for passing it tonight and making the moderation and having the study session to reduce it. That's where I stand.
And your proposal, Director Collins, was to do 0?
Let's start with 0% for the remainder of this fiscal year, and so that will give us, it's a few months, that'll get us, to the, and then that'll give us the time to also work with Director Baker's proposal, so we can then put up something that would actually probably better.
So when you say it's 0%, are you saying you want to adopt the consultant?
I'm saying that what we talked about starting out with that 0 for the first year, and then kind of moving in that direction of the 4.5% increase.
Well, if you adopt this, this has an increase.
Okay, I'm not recommending adopting it straight as you're proposing. I'm not recommending that. So,
What he's proposing is to adopt it tonight with 0 for the remainder of the year. And then the next meeting, or a meeting in between, that we go over this with the public so that everybody has information about it. And then move toward adopting your rate structure.
You're saying you want to adopt this but not implement it?
So we cannot adopt yours. I'm not sure what.
No, this is the consultant one. I realize mine, you can't do anything. But for the consultant one, you want to adopt it, but then not
0.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard you say is you wanted to adopt it at 0%, which is what I mentioned earlier, is basically go to that schedule, but it would be a 0% gross revenue gain. So it would be at the same revenue we have now. So the 5 to 12 would still see an increase over the rest, but it would not be increased revenue to the